Mr. H, class, the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It's the illusion of knowledge, as Stephen Hawking would say. The power of knowledge. Did you know that nearly half of the 20 million new cases of STDs each year are found between the ages of 15 and 24? Or what about the fact that boys between the ages of 13 to 19 make up more than 3/4 of HIV diagnosis? Did you know that 4 in every 10 teenage girls have an STD that could cause infertility or even death? Well, as these may be heartbreaking facts, they are real statistics. Everyone starts learning about sexual education in different ways. Kids start hearing about sex when they're younger, and as they grow up, they become a little more interested in it. Whether they learn about it from their peers, as in their friends or fellow classmates, or even their siblings, it's going to be going around one way or the other. Most of the time, when students or children are becoming more interested in this kind of thing, is when they're starting to feel insecure about themselves. They're starting to hit puberty, and they're starting to develop their own sense of self-worth. In this sense, kids might not always learn about these things in a positive light. They could think, oh, well, all of my friends are doing it. They're all talking about it. If I want to be cool, if I want to fit in with those people that I call my friends, I have to be the same way. And this is seen every day in high schools and even middle schools. And people want to fit in. You always want to fit in everywhere you go. And a lot of the time, when you're growing up, your hormones start to hit, and when you start hearing about these things, you think, oh, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do to be cool. Or my friends want it, so I want it. Either way, students are learning about sexual education, and instead of them learning about it from everybody else, why not have a class where they teach about it? Now, abstinence-only programs don't necessarily always work. I, for one, grew up in a town which our principal of our school, our new principal came in, and he started enforcing abstinence only, or as other people call it, no sex until marriage, basically. Abstinence until marriage. Now, a lot of the time, this teaches a very closed-minded approach to sexual encounters and to the whole realm of a teenager growing up and experiencing these new feelings that they're having. And it's not always a good thing to suppress those emotions, but a better thing to help them kind of work through them and understand how things are coming along, how you are actually, how they're going from not knowing anything about this to starting to having all these feelings, and to help them understand what they're feeling and to focus it in a positive manner, as in their health or their safety. That would be a more ideal thing. Now, abstinence-only programs typically they tiptoe around the idea of sex, which, I mean, is understandable in some senses. A lot of people can be very conserved and not necessarily always very open with things like this. But it does promote things like closure and being closed off, and maybe even that could cause kids to lash out, or nobody likes to be told what to do. So naturally, these children are going to start not listening and swaying from the abstinence-only programs and starting to do what they think is cool, what they want to do, because they're being told that they can't have it. Now, the other thing that abstinence-only programs does is it denies the individual the rights to learn about the safe practice of sex. Now, this is where comprehensive sexual education comes into play. Comprehensive sexual education, there is much more to these programs than just sex. I mean, it even includes abstinence. It teaches that abstinence is the absolute only certain way that you can have a guarantee that you will not get pregnant, and a guarantee that you will not have any sort of STDs. Because it is. Abstinence is the absolute only way that you can be 100% positive. But a lot of the time, this isn't always the case. People aren't always, kids, especially hormonal teenagers, aren't always going to have that abstinence-only mindset. Think that, oh yes, my parents are absolutely right. And a lot of parents know that their kids are going to think that they're right all the time, because kids are always right. Kids always think that they are right about everything until they learn better, of course. Well, sexual education is a great way to teach kids not only about contraceptives and how to have safe sex, but about the negative outcomes and the repercussions of what happens when you have sex. It also teaches the good things as far as reproductive organs, and it teaches how everything works, how a woman gets pregnant, how your body parts work, and it also focuses a lot around self-image, which is very, very vital in a young person's mind. Because, like I said, when you're growing up, when you're in that awkward phase, you don't really have much of a self-image, because, yes, you're insecure. You're in that awkward phase. And a lot of the time, that phase, it's helpful to have people who teach you how to have a positive self-image about yourself. It also teaches girls to respect themselves, and men to respect themselves and not just jump into bed with anybody. Now, health and safety is the absolute #1 priority of most parents when it comes to their children. And this is a huge thing when it comes to sexual education. The main teachings of sexual education is revolved around health and safety. Now, as the Tibetan proverb says, a child without education is like a bird without wings, which is true in a lot of senses. especially when it comes to sex and education in as far as the self-image goes and as far as contraceptives go. I've had friends who their junior, senior year of high school, they didn't know what a condom was. And a lot of that is taught and has to do with sex ed. I mean, I've had friends, one of my closest friends has children, and it's not necessarily because she didn't know, but because it was not exactly stressed from a young age that the kinds of contraceptives and birth control to use and how to be safe. Children must be taught how to think, not what to think, as Margaret Mead said. The bottom line is that teens are going to want to have sex. Life is presenting them with new experiences. Their hormones are heightened, and they're beginning to take in an interest in others with a sense of attraction. This is the time that we as a society should set aside being naive and be open to the idea that teenagers are going to want to explore some of the new things that life has to offer. It is better to accept reality than to try to prevent the inevitable. Comments or questions? Mr. H, back to you.